The massive crystal halls of the Galactic Council stretched high above the gathered alien leaders. Hundreds of different species sat in their floating chairs, their eyes focused on a holographic display, showing a small blue planet spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Admiral Kethvar stood at the center of the room, his 4 arms crossed behind his back. His scaled skin gleamed under the bright lights as he spoke to the Council with complete confidence. "Fellow members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Today we discuss the final solution to the human problem. These creatures have spread their violent nature across their single world for far too long." The other alien leaders nodded in agreement. They had all heard the stories about Earth. The humans fought each other constantly, using primitive weapons to destroy their own cities. Their technology was centuries behind the most basic galactic standards. Commander Zixtau from the Vorthan Empire raised one of his tentacles. "Admiral Kethvar, our intelligence reports show that humans still use chemical rockets to reach their own moon. Their largest weapons are simple nuclear devices. How can such primitive beings pose any real threat to our civilized galaxy?" Kethvar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Exactly my point, Commander. These humans are dangerous not because they are strong, but because they are unpredictable. They wage war on their own species. They destroy their own environment. They cannot be reasoned with or controlled. Meanwhile, millions of miles away on Earth, Colonel Jake Morrison sat at his office aboard the space station Liberty Prime. He stared at the computer screen, showing the latest intelligence reports from deep space monitoring systems. The alien probe activity had increased dramatically over the past few weeks. Jake rubbed his tired eyes and reached for his coffee cup. At 45 years old, he had spent most of his military career preparing for threats that might never come. But now, looking at the data streaming across his screen, he knew that day had arrived. The door to his office opened, and Captain Lisa Grant walked in. She carried a thick folder marked with the highest security classification. Her face was grim as she set the folder on Jake's desk. "Colonel, you need to see this immediately," Lisa said. "Our deep space satellites have detected a massive fleet gathering at the edge of the Centauri system. The computer estimates over 10,000 vessels." Jake opened the folder and felt his stomach drop. The photograph showed ships of incredible size, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. The fleet formation stretched across thousands of miles of space. "How long do we have?" Jake asked, though he already feared the answer. "Intelligence estimates they could reach Earth within 72 hours if they move at maximum speed," Lisa replied. "But Jake, there's something else. We intercepted their communications. They're not coming to negotiate or make demands. This is a complete extermination fleet." Back in the Galactic Council chambers, Admiral Kethvar continued his presentation. The holographic display now showed detailed images of human cities, their primitive aircraft, and their small space stations. "Look at their defensive capabilities," Kethvar said with amusement. "Their most advanced fighter aircraft cannot even break the sound barrier efficiently. Their space stations are tiny metal boxes that would crumble under the slightest pressure. Their ground forces still use gunpowder-based weapons." General Mordak of the Krillian War clans stood up from his seat. His massive frame towered over the other council members as he spoke in his deep, rumbling voice. "Admiral, while I agree that humans appear primitive, we should not underestimate any species that have survived for so long on a single world. Perhaps we should offer them terms of surrender before we attack." Kethvar laughed, a harsh sound that made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. "General, have you studied their history? These humans have been at war with each other for their entire existence. They have never known true peace. They destroy everything they touch. There can be no negotiation with such creatures." The council chamber fell silent as the members considered Kethvar's words. Many of them had built their civilizations on principles of peace and cooperation. The idea of a species that lived in constant conflict was both fascinating and terrifying to them. On Earth, Dr. Carl Peterson worked frantically in his underground laboratory beneath the Colorado mountains. He had spent the last 10 years developing theoretical weapons based on captured alien technology from previous encounters that the public never knew about. Carl's team of 12 scientists worked around the clock, assembling devices that existed only in classified research papers just days before. The alien threat had finally given them permission to test theories that had been deemed too dangerous for peacetime. Dr. Peterson called out his assistant, Mary Kim, from across the lab. The quantum resonance chamber is showing positive results. The energy output is exceeding our most optimistic projections. Carl rushed over to examine the readings on Mary's computer screen. The device they had built could theoretically disrupt the quantum fields that held alien ships together, but it had never been tested on anything larger than a coffee cup. How many more units can we produce in the next 48 hours? Carl asked. With the manufacturing facilities running at maximum capacity, maybe 20 units. But Carl, we don't even know if they'll work against real alien shields. Carl nodded grimly. Then we better hope 20 is enough, because that's all the time we have. Back on the space station Liberty Prime, Jake Morrison called an emergency meeting of all senior Earth Defense Force officers. The conference room filled quickly with men and women who had dedicated their lives to protecting their planet from threats they had only imagined in their worst nightmares. Ladies and gentlemen, Jake began, as of 1800 hours today, Earth is under imminent threat of alien invasion. Intelligence confirms a massive enemy fleet approaching our solar system with hostile intent. The room erupted in concerned voices as the officers tried to process this information. Captain Ben Hayes, commander of the Lunar Defense Platforms, raised his hand for attention. Colonel Morrison, what are our orders? How do we defend against 10,000 enemy vessels with our current resources? Jake looked around the room at the faces of his fellow officers. These were good people who had families and dreams just like everyone else on Earth. In less than 3 days, they would be asked to stand against impossible odds. Our orders are simple, Jake said quietly. We fight. We use every weapon, every trick, every advantage we can find. And if we're going to lose, we make sure they remember the cost of attacking Earth for the next 1,000 years. The Galactic Council had made their decision. The vote was unanimous. The human species would be eliminated completely, their world sterilized and left empty as a warning to other primitive civilizations. Admiral Kefvar smiled as he received his final orders. Soon, the galaxy would be rid of the human problem forever. Or so he believed. The alien armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a swarm of angry wasps. 10,000 ships of different sizes and shapes appeared in the darkness, their hulls gleaming with strange metals and glowing energy fields. Admiral Kefvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance. The massive vessel stretched for miles in every direction, armed with weapons that could crack planets in half. Through the huge viewing windows, he could see Earth hanging in space like a small blue marble. Send the surrender demand to all human communication channels. Kefvar ordered his communications officer. Give them exactly 1 hour to respond with complete submission. The message was broadcast across every radio, television, and internet connection on Earth. The alien voice spoke in perfect English, but the words chilled everyone who heard them. Primitive humans of the third planet. This is Admiral Kefvar of the Galactic Council Extermination Fleet. You have exactly 1 hour to surrender completely and prepare for relocation to designated work camps. Any resistance will result in complete destruction of your species. In the deep underground bunkers of NORAD, Colonel Ryan Davis watched the alien fleet on his screens with growing amazement. The enemy ships were arranged in perfect military formations, following textbook attack patterns that any first-year military student could recognize. Sir, called out Lieutenant Sam Brooks from his monitoring station, the alien fleet is maintaining standard battle formation. They're approaching at exactly the speed our computers predicted based on optimal fuel consumption. Ryan shook his head in disbelief. They're treating this like a training exercise. Look at their spacing, their approach vector. They expect zero resistance from us. High above Earth's atmosphere, Captain Lisa Grant received the final defense orders aboard her battleship New Horizon. The ship was one of 12 vessels that made up humanity's entire space navy. Each ship carried nuclear weapons and experimental energy shields that had never been tested in real combat. All stations report ready for battle, announced her tactical officer, Commander Pete Johnson. The lunar defense platforms are online, and targeting systems are locked onto the lead enemy vessels. Lisa stared at the tactical display, showing 10,000 red dots approaching 12 green dots. The odds were almost 1,000 to 1 against them. But she had volunteered for this duty, knowing that Earth's survival depended on buying time for the ground defenses. Send a message to all ships, Lisa ordered. Remember why we're here. Every minute we keep them busy is another minute for our families to prepare. On the hidden lunar base, Major Frank Collins supervised the activation of weapon systems that had been disguised as mining equipment for 20 years. The massive structures on the moon's surface began to move, revealing themselves as enormous railguns capable of firing projectiles at incredible speeds. Power levels at maximum, reported Sergeant Amy Chun from the control room. All 6 primary cannons are ready to fire on your command. Frank looked through the reinforced windows at the approaching alien fleet. The enemy ships were so confident they hadn't even bothered to scan the moon for defensive installations. They saw only what they expected to see. Hold your fire until they reach optimal range, Frank ordered. Let them get close enough to see what we're really made of. Lieutenant Commander Amy Rodriguez piloted her stealth corvette Ghost Runner through the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Her small ship was invisible to most scanning systems, allowing her to watch the alien fleet without being detected. "Control, this is Ghost Runner," she whispered into her radio. "The enemy is maintaining perfect formation. They're not even running active scans for threats. They think we're completely helpless." The response came back through her earpiece from Colonel Morrison on Liberty Prime. "Copy that, Amy. Continue observation and report any changes in their behavior." Amy watched through her ship's cameras as the alien vessels moved past her hiding spot. The ships were beautiful in their own way, with smooth curves and glowing energy fields. But there was something about their movement that bothered her. They flew like they were in a parade, not preparing for battle. Dr. Carl Peterson made final adjustments to the quantum disruption devices in his underground laboratory. 20 small boxes that looked like simple computers would soon be humanity's secret weapons against the alien invasion. The resonance frequencies are locked onto the alien shield signatures, explained his assistant Mary Kim. If our calculations are correct, these devices should create cascade failures in the defensive systems. Carl nodded as he sealed the last device. "And if our calculations are wrong, we'll all be dead in a few hours anyway. Get these units to the launch sites immediately." The alien fleet continued its approach toward Earth, maintaining the same predictable formation. Admiral Kethvar reviewed the tactical reports from his bridge officers with growing satisfaction. "Scan results show no significant defensive installations," reported his science officer. "The humans have a few primitive space stations and approximately 12 small warships. Their ground-based weapons appear to be limited to nuclear missiles with chemical propulsion systems." Kethvar laughed as he studied the human defenses on his tactical display. 12 ships against 10,000. Even their own military computers must be telling them to surrender immediately. But the surrender never came. As the alien fleet reached the outer edge of Earth's defense perimeter, the human response began. The first surprise came from the moon. 6 massive energy beams lanced out for what the aliens had assumed were simple mining installations. The beams moved at light speed and struck the lead alien vessels before their crews even realized they were under attack. "Shields down on vessels 7 through 12, reported Kethvar's tactical officer in confusion. "Sir, those weren't mining facilities. They were weapons platforms disguised as industrial equipment." Before Kethvar could respond, the second surprise hit his fleet. The 12 human warships didn't retreat or try to negotiate. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the alien armada at maximum speed, their weapons already firing. "This is impossible," Kethvar muttered as he watched the tactical display. "They're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Why aren't they surrendering?" His communications officer looked up from his console with a puzzled expression. "Admiral, we're receiving a response to our surrender demand from the human military commander." "Put on the main screen," Kethvar ordered. Colonel Jake Morrison's face appeared on the bridge display. His voice was calm and steady as he delivered humanity's answer to the alien ultimatum. "Admiral Kethvar, this is Colonel Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. We have received your surrender demand, and our response is simple. You picked the wrong planet to threaten. Welcome to Earth. The transmission ended, and Kethvar stared at the blank screen in amazement. The humans were actually going to fight back against impossible odds. For the first time since the invasion began, a small doubt crept into the Admiral's mind. Perhaps these humans were even more primitive than he had thought. The battle erupted across space like a deadly fireworks display. Human ships moved in ways that made no sense to the alien tactical computers. Instead of retreating when outnumbered, they charged forward. Instead of following proper military formations, they scattered in seemingly random directions. Major Frank Collins gave the order to fire all lunar weapons at once. 6 massive railgun blasts tore through space at incredible speeds, each one aimed at a different alien capital ship. The projectiles hit their targets before the enemy shields could adapt to the new threat. Direct hits on 6 enemy vessels, reported Sergeant Amy Chun from her control station. Their shields collapsed completely. 3 ships are showing massive hull damage. Frank watched through the viewing port as alien ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. But for every enemy vessel destroyed, 20 more took its place. The odds were still impossible. Keep firing, Frank ordered. Make every shot count. Captain Lisa Grant pushed her battleship New Horizon into the heart of the alien formation. Her tactical officer looked at her with concern as enemy fire began to light up their shields. Captain, we're taking heavy damage, Commander Pete Johnson reported. Our shields are down to 60% and falling fast. Ignore the shields, Lisa replied calmly. Focus all power on weapons. We're not here to survive this battle. We're here to make them pay for every inch. The New Horizon's nuclear missiles streaked toward the nearest alien cruiser. The enemy ship's defensive systems tried to intercept the primitive weapons, but the missiles moved in unpredictable patterns that confused the alien computers. 3 nuclear explosions bloomed against the alien cruiser's hull. The massive ship shuddered and began to list to one side, its perfect formation broken. In his underground laboratory, Dr. Carl Peterson monitored the quantum disruption devices as they were launched into space. The small devices looked harmless compared to the massive alien fleet, but they carried technology that the enemy had never encountered. First device is in position near the alien command ship, reported Mary Kim from her monitoring station. Quantum resonance patterns are locked onto their shield frequencies. Carl pressed the activation button and watched his computer screens carefully. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the readings began to change dramatically. It's working, Carl whispered in amazement. The quantum cascade is spreading to their shield network. Lieutenant Commander Amy Rodriguez watched from her hidden position as something strange began happening to the alien fleet. Ships that had been undamaged suddenly found their shields failing for no apparent reason. Control, this is Ghost Runner, she transmitted. Something is causing massive shield failures throughout the enemy fleet. Their defensive systems are collapsing in a chain reaction. The quantum virus spread from ship to ship through the alien fleet's own communication networks. The technology that connected their vessels had become the pathway for their destruction. Admiral Kethvar stood on his bridge in growing panic as reports flooded in from across his fleet. Ships that had never known defeat were being destroyed by weapons that should have been useless against their advanced defenses. How are their primitive missiles penetrating our shields? Kethvar demanded of his science officer. Sir, I don't understand it either, the officer replied nervously. Our shield generators are failing at the quantum level. It's as if something is disrupting the basic energy patterns that hold our defenses together. Commander Zixtal's flagship suddenly lost all power as the quantum cascade reached his vessel. The massive ship drifted helplessly as human fighters swarmed around it like angry bees. All systems offline, reported his engineering officer. The humans have some kind of weapon that attacks our technology directly. Engineer Katie Williams worked frantically aboard the space platform Armstrong Station. Her job was to coordinate the quantum disruption devices and maximize their effect on the alien fleet. Device 7 is in position near the enemy rear formation, she announced over the communication channel. Activating cascade sequence now. Katie watched her computer screens as another section of the alien fleet suddenly found itself defenseless. The enemy ships began to collide with each other as their navigation systems failed. The aliens had built their entire military strategy around superior technology and perfect coordination. They had never faced an enemy that could turn their greatest strengths into fatal weaknesses. Commander Steve Parker led Squadron 7 through the debris field of destroyed alien vessels. His small fighter group had been tasked with exploiting the gaps created by the quantum weapon. "Stay close and watch for falling debris," Steve warned his pilots. "These alien ships are big enough to crush us if we're not careful." His squadron moved to the battle like sharks hunting wounded prey. Every time an alien ship lost its shields, the human fighters were there to finish it off with conventional weapons. The alien tactical computers tried desperately to understand what was happening. Their programming had never encountered an enemy that used chaos as a weapon. Every human ship seemed to move independently, making decisions that defied all military logic. Dr. Helen Turner worked alongside Dr. Peterson to modify the quantum virus in real time. As the alien fleet adapted to one frequency, she changed the disruption pattern to stay ahead of their defenses. "The enemy is trying to isolate their communication networks," Helen reported. "But it's too late. The cascade has already infected over 60% of their fleet." The virus spread faster than the aliens could contain it. Ships began turning on their own allies as the cascade corrupted their identification systems. Friend or foe recognition failed, and alien vessels started firing at each other. General Mordak of the Krillian war clans watched in horror as his battle group tore itself apart. His own ships were attacking each other because their computers could no longer tell friend from enemy. "Cease fire! Cease fire!" Mordak roared into his communication system, but his orders couldn't get to the quantum interference that now filled space around Earth. Captain Lisa Grant's battleship finally succumbed to enemy fire, but not before launching its final volley of nuclear missiles. As the New Horizon exploded in a brilliant flash, her last missile struck 3 more alien vessels. "This is New Horizon going down," Lisa transmitted to the fleet. "We took 12 of them with us. Make it count." The Human Defense Network began to adapt and learn from every alien attack. Unlike the rigid alien tactical systems, human commanders made decisions based on instinct and experience rather than computer calculations. Admiral Kethvar realized with growing horror that his perfect invasion was turning into a disaster. His fleet was being destroyed not by superior firepower, but by an enemy that refused to fight according to the rules. "Sir, we've lost over 4,000 vessels," reported his tactical officer. "The humans are using weapons and tactics that don't appear in any of our databases." Kethvar stared at the tactical display, showing his fleet in complete chaos. Red dots representing destroyed ships covered the screen like drops of blood. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Kethvar began to consider the possibility that the Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake. Admiral Kethvar watched his perfect invasion crumble into complete disaster. The tactical display showed only 300 alien ships remaining from the original 10,000. Most of them were damaged and trying to flee back toward the outer solar system. "Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different battle groups," reported his communications officer with shaking voice. "The Vorthan Empire fleet is requesting immediate evacuation assistance." Kethvar could not believe what he was hearing. The mighty Galactic Council fleet was being destroyed by primitive humans who still use chemical rockets to reach their own moon. His 4 arms trembled as he gripped the command console. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Our technology is centuries ahead of theirs. Our ships are the finest in the galaxy. How are they defeating us?" General Paul Richardson stood in the Earth Defense Command Center, watching the alien retreat with amazement. The ground forces he commanded had never fired a single shot. The entire invasion had been stopped in space before any enemy troops reached the planet's surface. "Sir, our satellite networks show the remaining alien vessels are fleeing the solar system," reported Colonel Davis. "Should we pursue them?" Paul shook his head. "Let them go. They need to carry the message back to their leaders. Earth is not as helpless as they thought." Captain Monica Lee pushed her destroyer Defiant Spirit through the debris field of destroyed alien vessels. Her ship was one of only 3 human warships that survived the battle, but they had accomplished something incredible. "Engineering, what's our status?" Monica asked over the ship's communication system. "We've lost main power and our weapons are offline," replied Chief Engineer Tom Bradley. "But we're alive, Captain. Against all odds, we're still alive." Monica looked through the viewing port at the wreckage floating around them. Pieces of alien ships drifted past like metallic snow. Each fragment represented technology that could advance human civilization by decades. The quantum virus that Dr. Helen Turner had created continued to spread through the fleeing alien vessels. Even as they tried to escape, their own ships turned against them. The cascade had become unstoppable. "The virus is still active in their communication networks," Helen reported from her laboratory. "Every time they try to coordinate their retreat, the cascade disrupts their systems." Dr. Carl Peterson walked through his underground facility, looking at the quantum disruption devices that had saved humanity. 20 small boxes had defeated the largest invasion force in galactic history. "How did we do it?" asked his assistant Mary Kim. "How did we beat an enemy with technology so much more advanced than ours?" Carl smiled as he picked up one of the devices. "Because we understood something they didn't. Technology isn't about having the most advanced tools. It's about using those tools in ways your enemy doesn't expect." Commander Nick Thompson coordinated the pursuit of the retreating alien forces with what remained of the human fleet. His orders were clear: make sure the survivors escape to tell their story. "All pursuit vessels maintain safe distance," Nick transmitted. "We want them to reach their home systems with a very specific message." The message was simple but effective. Earth was no longer a primitive world that could be conquered easily. The humans had proven they could defend themselves against any threat. On the flagship Eternal Dominance, Admiral Kethvar composed his report to the Galactic Council. His hands shook as he typed words that would destroy his military career and change galactic politics forever. "Council members," he wrote, "the human extermination has failed completely. Our forces have suffered 97% casualties against an enemy we assumed was primitive and helpless. I formally recommend that Earth be classified as a forbidden system." Commander Zixtal sat in the ruins of his command bridge, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. His tentacles moved slowly across his damaged control panels as he prepared his own report. "The humans fight like no civilized species we have encountered," he dictated to his computer. "They did not follow proper military protocols. They sacrificed their own ships to destroy ours. They used their weaknesses as weapons against our strengths." The surviving alien officers struggled to explain their defeat to themselves and their superiors. How could they admit that primitive chemical weapons had penetrated their energy shields? How could they describe tactics that made no logical sense but worked perfectly? Lieutenant Colonel Amy Rodriguez piloted her stealth corvette back toward Earth, carrying captured alien technology that intelligence teams were eager to study. Her small ship was packed with equipment that would revolutionize human science. "Control, this is Ghost Runner returning home," she transmitted. "I have 37 different alien devices in my cargo hold. The science teams are going to love Christmas morning. The technology captured from a defeated fleet would advance human civilization by centuries. Faster than light travel, energy weapons, quantum computers. All of it was now within humanity's reach." Dr. Peterson stood in his laboratory, examining alien shield generators that had failed against his quantum weapons. The irony was perfect. The aliens' most advanced technology had become the key to their own defeat. "We didn't beat them with superior firepower," he explained to his research team. "We beat them by understanding something they have forgotten. Every strength can become a weakness if you know how to exploit it." The few surviving alien ships limped back toward their home systems, carrying news that would shock the entire Galactic Council. The humans were not the primitive savages they had appeared to be. Captain Ben Hayes supervised the cleanup operations around Earth's orbital space. Thousands of alien ship fragments floated in chaotic patterns around the planet, like a metal asteroid belt. "This debris field is going to keep our scientists busy for the next 50 years, Ben reported to Earth Command. "Every piece contains technology we've never seen before." The victory had come at a terrible cost. 8 of humanity's 12 space warships had been destroyed, and hundreds of military personnel had died in the battle. But their sacrifice had saved billions of lives on Earth. Admiral Kethvar's final transmission to the Galactic Council was brief and devastating. The humans cannot be conquered by conventional military force. Any future contact with Earth must be approached with extreme caution. We have awakened something that was better left sleeping. The council members who received that message understood its implications immediately. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species had defeated a full-scale council military operation. Earth was no longer just another world to be cataloged and forgotten. It had become the nightmare that would haunt alien military planners for generations to come. The greatest lesson from humanity's victory was simple but profound. The most dangerous enemies are not those with the best weapons or the largest fleets. The most dangerous enemies are those who refuse to accept defeat, even when victory seems impossible. Colonel Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Liberty Prime, looking down at the blue planet that had just proven it could defend itself against any threat in the galaxy. "They made one fatal mistake," he said quietly to Captain Grant's replacement. "They judged us by our appearance instead of our actions. They saw our wars and thought we were weak. They didn't realize that all those conflicts had taught us the most important lesson of all." "What lesson is that, sir?" Jake smiled as he watched the sun rise over Earth's horizon. "That sometimes the only way to have peace is to be so dangerous that no one dares to threaten it. The alien Armadas had learned that lesson the hard way. Earth would never be threatened again.